Hey everyone, how's it going? Just hanging out until we get started. Still got 6 minutes, so everyone just hang tight. Akame, I saw your comment. Tomorrow's your birthday. Happy birthday. Don't have to call me Mr. Sheen though. I'm already feeling a little ancient. My birthday's coming up. I forgot about that. How many more days till my birthday? Let's check it out. My birthday. Anybody know my birthday? Probably not. My birthday is May 6th, so I've got 2 weeks and a day until my birthday, and looking forward to that. Actually, am I looking forward to that? I don't know if I'm looking forward to that. Live by myself. You'll see that we have added a Rocky cam here. Let me give you a little extra peek. This is a live shot of baby boy. I was touching up some paint around the house, just going bored out of my mind, and he walked into a corner and got some paint on his ear, so there's that. Abby, how's it going? Abby's our chapter relationship manager, helping us work with our chapters, and glad to see some of those folks on so far. We're just hanging out until 6 p.m. when we actually get started. So looking to just make sure that everybody can hear me. Good. Veronica, hi. AP, good to see you in the chat. Thanks for showing up a little early like that. Okay. Make me something special. That's amazing, Akame. Thank you for doing that. You don't need to do that. David, how's it going? Good to see you as well. Looking forward to share some thoughts today, different angles on what it takes to keep promises and a bunch of things. We're just hanging out. All right. James says my mic is muted. Just want to double check everyone can hear me okay. We're just hanging out until, well, 4 more minutes. Abby, can you hear me okay? Abby's a staff member with us. Let's see here. I think that's all good. Rocky Cam. Let's look at his little face. Oh. No, we can hear you. Awesome. Thanks, Cass. How's everybody's day going? James, no worries. You're just trying to help out. I think that's a lot of what people don't realize. So people normally have good intent. James just trying to help me out. David, I think I told you this before, but David's my middle name. And we get what other middle names? Well, no, we shouldn't disclose middle names, right? That's like some kind of privacy concern. Everybody seeing Rocky here in HD. Bye-bye. Look at all the peepos. Look at all the peepos coming onto the live stream. Look at this face. What if I just did this for a pure hour? Just different angles. Petting his little tiny Chihuahua beagle face. I actually had to take time to set up another camera and configure this and make sure the angles were good. A lot of cognition went into this moment right now. Who else do we have in the room? It's quarantine. There's not much of a difference to my days. I hear that. Oh, been waiting for this all day. Appreciate you just hanging in there. Waiting for our little live stream to start here. We got a couple more minutes. David, we can arrange Rocky Cam. Actually, can we arrange Rocky Cam? Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. Huge gamble. Terrible live stream fail gamble to include these dogs on this. There is a 100% chance they're gonna bark at the most serious, somber, moment talking about the end of life or something. That's most definitely going to happen. Let me reach down. Let's get into the inventory here. Let's double this up, you know. This is Mishka. He's a good boy. He's the best boy. Okay, we don't need too many kisses, boo-boo. I love your kisses, but it's just weird on camera, you know. Let's get a close look there. We'll run out of light if we get too close. But this is my good boy. He's such a good boy. We got 1 more minute till we start. We're just hanging out till 6 p.m. Eastern. Can I get a shout out of schools that we've got represented here? Nara, Veronica, where are we from? I should know that by now, but I'm a terrible human being. Want to see your schools. Love your support for the cause. We'll get started here soon. A couple more people just joined. Just hanging out until 6 p.m. when we actually get this thing kicked off. What schools do we have? What cities do we have in the live stream today? Austin High School. We got North Ridgeville. Veronica, I'll remember that one day. I'll be like 48 years old, but I'll remember it one day. Olentangy, yes. Go Braves. Awesome. We got 2 El Pasos. That's good. Like it. Hope you guys are doing well over there. All right. Let's we're gonna cut away from Rocky Cam. That's gonna break some hearts. Understand that, Mishka. I love you. We're gonna put you down. You hang out over here. How's everyone's day going? Live stream. I've had a long one. Want to take this a little bit more casual than usual. I'm going nuts over here. We've got another Austin High School. Thanks for joining. This is a live stream with me, Alex Sheen, founder of Because I Said I Would, 5-time TEDx speaker and tiny Asian baby at one point. That is a fact. This is me at my first birthday, which apparently they give you a bunch of money, and I'm old enough to have $20 bills look weird, apparently. Apparently, like, Korean first birthdays, they put a bunch of stuff out, and then, like, you grab a certain type of fruit or food, and depending on what you grab is, like, says something about the rest of your life. I can't remember what I grabbed. I don't know what that means, but I'm you know, I'm going along with it here, right? Trying to keep it easy. Okay. Leah, awesome to see you. Thanks for coming. Just appreciate everybody joining. Let's get this moving. As you guys know, we're here to talk about how to get better at keeping promises. You've got goals in this life worth reaching. You only have so much time on this planet. As dark as that may sound, we all need to realize that part of the reason why we got to get better at keeping promises is because we're just trying to make the most out of this life. We're going to talk about habits and tactics on how to keep promises. And today we're going to talk about a concept called the courage of no, something that I talk about a lot to folks when talking about keeping promises. We're actually going to talk about electrocution today. We're going to talk about this study involving electrocution and the courage of no. Stick around for that. We're going to check in with our chapters. If you're interested in learning more about maybe starting a chapter at your school, check out becauseIsaidIwould.org/chapters. We not only get better at keeping promises, we then apply that strength to helping others in need. That's volunteer projects, keeping those promises. We've got people in the live chat here from our different chapters in high school, but we also got AP here. Shout out from Florida Southern College. I came in, I guess, the fall of 2017, which now seems like decades ago. Time is moving very slowly, but awesome to see you, AP, in the room. And so we're going to check in with our chapters, see how they're doing. We're going to talk about some things that are trending now. I've got a kind of an interesting perspective on a picture that's been shared pretty wildly. If you've seen this one, you might know where I'm headed with that. So we'll talk about trending now, something related to COVID-19. You guys know that we're really working hard in the fight against that. And then we're going to make some promises. That's what this is all about, keeping promises. But want to keep you engaged this whole time in the live stream. Love to hear from you. I'm looking at the live chat the entire time. If you got a thought, perspective, how about a question or a question about a perspective on something I'm talking about, curiosity that you might have, just throw a bunch of stuff in there. Give me stuff to riff off of. That was terrible. I apologize to everybody about that. But the goal of this live stream is today, to develop self-control, to better humanity. My dad used to tell me the only person in this world you can control is yourself. And if we can harness that self-control, if we can point it in the right direction, then this world will get a lot better. We're seeing individual responsibility play out in a bunch of different ways in society right now in the pandemic. And we're seeing the breakdown of self-control as well. And maybe the world would get along a little bit better if we did a little bit more personal development. What do you think? I don't know. Okay. Let's see you in the chat, and let's get going. Okay. So we're going to talk about habits and tactics. I talked about this thought of courage of no. That's what we're going to dive into. But I want to get your take on this question here. How do you measure courage? How do you measure courage? And Nalani is commenting right now on this question. What are your thoughts on the protests against the quarantine, closed businesses, that back and forth, right? Is there an element of courage maybe to protesting, to exercising your First Amendment rights? Now, take it outside of this current moment that obviously has a lot of friction because of the transmission of disease. Take it back 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Do you have to have courage to protest? I think there's a connected thought there. So thank you for posting that. Want to think more deeply about how we measure courage. And I saw this study once from 1951 that in some ways measured courage or the absence of it. I want to play this clip from you from our Courage of No video. We'll dive into it. I may pause. I'm not sure. We'll see. But throw your thoughts in the live chat. Here we go. Okay. This video starts with 7 participants. Okay, I'll frame this before it gets going. 7 participants all sitting in a row, one answering a question after the other after the other. It'll make more sense here in a second, but let's take a look at this 60-second clip about a study from 1951.
The 7 people are told by a researcher that they are part of a study, a vision test. They are told that they will be shown 2 cards and asked a very simple question. Which comparison line, A, B, or C, is most like the target line? All they needed to do was identify a simple match and say their answer out loud, one at a time, nothing else.
Okay, I'm just going to pause it there just to make sure we understand what we're saying here. It's literally which line is like the other line. That's all we're talking about here. That's all we're talking about. Nothing more than that. Let's keep it going.
The first 2 line comparisons goes as one would imagine. All the answers are clear as day. Everyone gives the correct answer. Everyone has good vision. Then something strange happens on the 3rd line comparison. The first person gives an answer that is obviously wrong. The lines clearly do not match. If that isn't strange enough, then the next person says the same wrong answer. And so does the next participant. And every person after that. How could such an obvious mistake be made by 7 different people?
Now, I can't remember if I'm about to say this in this video, but just to be clear with you, just to be real clear with you, these people were actually already screened for their vision. Like, vision wasn't a problem. They already knew what their vision was like, and they're still getting all these answers wrong for some reason. Okay, let's keep it rolling.
To understand that, you will have to pull the veil off of this charade. There are 7 people being asked questions here, but 6 of them are actors. Only one person is really being tested here. The purpose of this research is not to test vision, but to study conformity. How can social pressure from other people change someone's behavior or response to an obvious question? In the control group, with no actors and no pressure to conform, only 2% of participants gave a wrong answer.
Okay, let's clarify something here. What I'm saying is that if there are no actors involved, if it's just, people in a legitimate study, only 2% of the people in the study actually get something wrong with this line comparison test. Only 2%. But if you introduce actors, what happens then?
However, with pressure to conform from actors, 75% of participants gave a wrong answer. That is more than 37 times as many people who changed.
37 times the people who changed their answer because of those actors. 37 times more wrong answers on a very clear and apparent question. Which line matches which line? That blew my mind. This Solomon Asch study was groundbreaking on understanding peer pressure, conformity, the human condition. And I think it's incredibly important to understand studies like this, because really, how can you control something you don't understand? Even if that something that we're talking about is literally yourself. That's what I find interesting about psychology, sociology. It's almost like in my brain, like some kind of Pixar movie, right? I got a little guy moving joysticks on the human condition that is myself. But if you don't know what all these levers and buttons even do, if you don't know what we're naturally inclined to do, how we react, and how can you really have the highest level of self-control to reach your goals in this life, to keep your promises? And so I want to get your thoughts on this study. Does that shock you? Does it shock you that 30 times more people would get it wrong just because they felt this pressure of like, I don't want to be the only one who's saying the wrong answer? Or do you feel like that's in line with what you currently believe? So let's hear it in the live chat. And as those thoughts are coming in, I want to also ask you, or at least tee up this next clip on thinking about when persuasion goes under the radar, right? Because we're saying that the people in this room, they probably don't actually even realize what's happening. Maybe they do, but plenty of them, I'm sure they do. They understand that they're being pressured and they're just kind of going with the flow because they don't want to have a moment of courage to say what they actually are thinking. But when does persuasion go under the radar? How often does that happen? That's what this next clip is about. Okay. P.S. I love our animation team. Pete and Paul, shout out to you guys. Doing an excellent job making these videos. You can always subscribe to us. Always check out our YouTube channel that you're obviously currently on. It sounds silly. And see their great work. Veronica says that it doesn't shock her that the peer pressure is so powerful. And maybe even think a moment in your life where you kind of just went with the flow of things just because, like, whatever. Like, you either didn't know what to do and have that courage of no and standing up for the truth, or maybe just subconsciously something went under the radar and you were persuaded. Let's talk about that. Nalani says, I think courage is measured when someone takes a risk by doing or saying something they believe in that is right. Absolutely. And what is right and wrong? I guess that's up to each and every one of us to decide. And what we then decide what is right and wrong, I guess in some ways is a commitment, right? Because if you think this is right, you think this is wrong, I mean, living a life of any sort of value would probably go down the guidance of those as almost rules. And that can be a promise in a certain way. But let's talk about when persuasion goes under the radar, something that we experience each and every day. Let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It'll make sense here in a second. Let's get to this next video. Little clip, couple minutes tops, maybe. Here it is. All right.
Take, for example, how we are pressured every day by marketing, sometimes without even knowing it. We've all seen a product or service offering that comes in 3 different levels, like bronze, silver, gold. Let's say it's a gift card. Let's say 100 people buy gift cards with no predetermined amount. They just choose what they want to spend. Out of those 100 people, the average self-selected gift card purchase is $20.
Okay, so self-selected, what am I saying here? It's just like, imagine, you go to a website and it's a free-form box. You just fill in whatever number you want. And then so a bunch of people buy a gift card, self-selected. Let's say it lands at $20. That's what I'm saying here.
Knowing this, the business creates 3 gift cards with pre-selected levels and a tactic called price framing, or Goldilocks pricing. They choose $5, $25, and $100. They know the customer will see $5 is too little, likewise $100 too high. So all of a sudden, $25 seems pretty reasonable. But that's a 25% increase from the $20 amount they would have chosen if no other prices were offered to frame their decision.
Okay. So Goldilocks pricing, this thought of Goldilocks pricing, again, in this clip, we're saying, okay, well, people just on their own free will would have bought $20, but I'm going to try to persuade them, push them in a direction. I'm going to put 25 in the middle. That increases then how much they're buying. And so we're being pushed in all kinds of ways by other people's answers, by the construct of a marketing campaign, by our parents, our families, our friends. And Zakiah makes a great point in the live chat. Peer pressure is when one person buys way more toilet paper than they need, and another person does it, and another, and another, and another. I think that's a great point to the earlier Solomon Asch study we were talking about, and peer pressure plays out in so many different ways. But we've got to understand the pressure around us. If we're going to stay on a path in this life, we've got to understand how these things work in a way that's not like, it's not like we all need to be psychologists and sociologists. We just need to know, we need to know enough to be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? That's a phrase just to say we need to know enough to be able to ask the right questions about what's happening and why we might be acting a certain way. So with that, when you look at the Solomon Asch study, when you look at Goldilocks price framing, 2 very different types of pressure to guide someone towards a decision or choice, would you say that you are any different? Would you say that I wouldn't do that? Why would I possibly say the wrong line in a vision test that is clear as day? Why would I do that? A lot of people think that they would be they wouldn't fall into the 30 times increase of people who fall into the pressure. Do you believe that about yourself? That's actually part of the goal. One of the goals of Because I Said I Would is that when we understand these things, when we know the habits and tactics on what keeps and breaks promises, we stay in that good part of the pie chart. People who do the right thing. Are you any different? I'm not sure, but I think this next clip that I got really talks about the consequences of this. Because who cares about a fake vision test? Let's just be honest with each other. Who cares about a $5 gift card? I mean, really, at the end of the day, we're in a global pandemic here. What would be the point of even caring about that right now? And so let's bring this to something a little bit more serious. AP, thanks for your comment. He says that it's just depends on a variety of factors. I think that's true. And so let's notch it up. Let's turn those factors up, and let's talk about something pretty serious that really could be life and death in this next 1-minute clip.
In a landmark study known as the Milgram experiment, participants were ordered to administer increasingly deadly electric shocks to another person by an authority figure. Every time the student answered a question incorrectly, the teacher was instructed by an experimenter to deliver an electric shock to the student. While the teacher believed he was delivering real shocks to the student was an actor, only pretending to be shocked.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here. So really the subject of this test is the lady in blonde here, right? She's the one who doesn't actually know what this study is about. She's just following instructions. Her job is to ask a question, and if the person gets it wrong, delivers an electric shock, what she thinks is an electric shock. But again, the other person on the other side is actually not even necessarily an actor. In this real study, it was a recording, and that's why we kind of illustrated like like an old school record player, because that's literally probably what they used. Or this happened in 1960 something. This Milgram experiment. So let's continue. What is the teacher going to do? How far is she going to go with flipping these switches from someone who's getting these wrong answers when being told by an authority figure, right? This university lab coat type. How far is she willing to go, even though things look a little dangerous?
At the beginning, the student would show only mild discomfort to the shocks. As the experiment progressed, the student would begin to beg to be released or even complain about a heart condition. Once they reached the 300-volt level, the student would bang on the wall and demand to be released. Next, the student became completely silent and stopped answering any questions. The experimenter then instructed the teacher to treat this silence as an incorrect response and deliver a further shock. Surprisingly, 65% of people were willing to deliver the maximum shock level under the orders from the experimenter.
65% of people were willing to deliver the maximum shock level. When someone literally said they had a heart condition, pounded on the door, they continued to give these shocks, and the person just stops responding. I mean, you'd only assume that the person has passed out or maybe even died. But 65% of people were willing to keep shocking somebody they may assume is either dead or unconscious. What? Oh, Alex, though. Alex, this must just be one experiment. One experiment shows 65%. Well, maybe it was that group. Maybe the Milgram experiment was repeated over and over and over again on a number of different demographics, geographies. They would sometimes show compliance to that directive to keep shocking, compliance in the 90%. 65% is, I believe, the number from the initial study with Stanley Milgram, and someone can fact check me on that. What does this say about human nature? What does this say about staying on a path to better humanity? I mean, can we really do that if this is part of the human condition? We can. We have a better shot of resisting these pressures if we just understand and recognize they're there. When are you going to find yourself in a moment like that first ASH study in the vision? When are you going to find yourself maybe even subtly being pushed in a direction that you don't want to go in, like the Goldilocks price framing? What if push becomes a shove, in a life or death situation? You're equipped with this knowledge now to recognize these situations and to try to keep the promise to be a decent human being. You know, you can do that better with these thoughts. I still can't believe that Milgram experiment. Did you know that, like, the reason why he did that experiment was because at that time, in the 60s and basically, every year after World War II, like, people literally, they just couldn't understand how people were so conforming to what was happening in Nazi Germany. That's actually why he did that study. He thought that maybe there's something else at play. He thought that this study of the shocking, like, he thought that it wasn't going to going to produce results like 65% going all the way up. And then sure enough, this is the human condition. What do you think about that? In the live chat, give me some of your perspective on the courage of no. What are some moments where you maybe feel like you should have said no, or maybe moments where you're proud of yourself or a family member or a friend for saying no? I'd love to hear from you. Leah is saying humans are so conditioned to just automatically listen to that authority figure, this mob mentality, and you're absolutely right. I mean, science shows that is true. 65%. Okay. If you want to see that video in its entirety, The Courage of No, see a video on limiting beliefs, code of honor, all of our stuff. Sub to our YouTube channel. See the content that we're coming out with. Get better at keeping your promises. On our YouTube channel as well as our website, my 4 TED Talks are up. I have a 5th that I did at the University of North Carolina. And that comes out here soon. I think it's just delayed because of the pandemic, which is understandable. So yeah, check out our website. Check out the rest of the videos on our YouTube channel. And that's the habit. That's the tactic for today. The courage of no. We're going to check in with our chapter members, see how they're doing. Love to see you in the live chat. Chapter members, have you... what is one of your favorite videos that's on our YouTube channel? If you've checked some of those out, if you've been in the character development workshops that we host with your schools, would love to hear maybe which one of the videos or concepts that you've learned that you like the most. But we're going to check in with some chapter members here, just show a little bit about what they're doing. This is Victor from MEX, a high school in Texas. He's wearing a face mask. He's working on creating a new normal. And that's what I think we need to do. We've been talking about negative peer pressure, right? We've been talking about authority figures. We've been talking about what can happen when people see someone else acting a certain way. But we've only been talking about it in a negative lens, right? I mean, it can be positive too. You know that maybe if you saw 6 people in a row wearing masks, maybe you're like, you know what, I should wear a mask. This is life and death for some people. Pressure works in all kinds of ways. We can use the human condition in a positive way too. And we just got to look around, be aware of when it's abused. When we're just being manipulated. So lots to unpack there. Nalani says, I believe that the type of peer pressure that made 65% feel as though they were forced and that they don't have a say, which is where courage comes in, standing up for what they believe in against authority. Okay, it's a good point. Believe in what you believe in against authority. Do you believe in your values to help other people? Do you believe in that more, or do you believe in the authority more? In some ways, that's what's at stake. And right now, with wearing masks, it's a little weird. In some areas of the country, people aren't wearing masks. I went to the grocery store 5-6 days ago. None of the staff members had masks on. Most of the customers did not have masks on. What's more valuable, though, to me? What people think, or how I look, or my moral principles? It should be an easy answer. It's not. If it was so easy, everybody would do the right thing. So I'm not trying to put myself on a high horse here, but these thought experiments help us think a little bit. Okay. Let's check in with Annika here, a chapter member. She helped her grandma, who she affectionately calls Nana, love it, learn a grocery app to limit her exposure to COVID-19, a challenge that we talked about last week. Huge props to Annika for doing this, for making this promise, for keeping this promise. We have never been so close to saving or ending a life based on our everyday activity, okay? Now, a lot of people aren't coming to grips with that. Maybe years will pass by before they realize the seriousness of this moment. You look at the charts of what's happening with COVID-19 deaths and spread, especially for those above the age of 65. We've got to trust the science. We've got to realize that the moment is now and will be weighted down with regret if we don't help those around us. Annika, thank you so much for teaching your grandma how to use that grocery app. I'll talk a little bit about that more on how everybody on this live stream can do the same if they'd like. But just awesome to see this. She said, my Nana has been going out to the store to get things, which is very dangerous for her health. But with the rest of my family having to be in online school almost all day, it was her only option. By showing her how to use the app, she no longer has to leave the house to get the supplies we need. Keeping a promise means that you are the difference. That you are the difference. That's what I think it means to be a person of your word. So just wanted to check in with Victor, with Annika. Awesome work. Love it. So Joanna, I hope I might be pronouncing that right. Hopefully, correct me if I'm wrong. Not sure how hard that H is in the name. You know, you mentioned, I wonder if it'd be any different if the person in the lab coat was a student or anyone else instead of a professional. And you're absolutely right. You know, these studies, the number of people who conform to the authority figure is sometimes based on how much of an authority figure that person appears to be. Maybe in age, maybe it's the institution, the building, but they have repeated this study in many different ways in the past in areas that aren't at prestigious universities with lab coat wearing authority figures. And they still saw an increase, or not an increase, a dramatic conformity to that Milgram experiment. So look it up, fact check me if I'm wrong, but I know this to be true. The results are still pretty shocking. Okay, let's keep going. Let's talk about trending now, things in social media, things that you're seeing, that I'm seeing, that really pertain to this world of keeping promises, what it means to better humanity, and that confluence. I used a big word there, confluence. But before we get to that, let's check in with Rocky Cam. I've just been waiting this whole time for this. This live stream is an excuse to look at his colored eyebrows. So Daddy, hold your face. Oh, you're so good boy. And then just 30 minutes of this. All right. Forget this hanging out until 6 p.m. Eastern. I just needed to cut back to Rocky Cam and make the rules. Okay, trending now. Let's talk about it. You guys are familiar with the concept of propaganda. Propaganda is just, messages, organized, distributed by the government. Sometimes it can be good things. Sometimes it can be bad things. Obviously, it depends on the situation. Governments can encourage people to do good things, but sometimes not so much. And I saw this sort of just like really hack job paint edited meme propaganda poster thing that I want to share. Maybe you've seen. I'll slide over to that now. And it says, Daddy, what did you do in the great Corona pandemic? Right? And like I said, this is like a horrible Photoshop. It's not even, I'm not even going to say Photoshop. That's not right. Someone went into MS Paint, dropped in some clip art, and was real proud of themselves with this one. But this is actually a propaganda poster from, I believe, World War I or World War II. I should know that before I open my mouth, but you get the point. It really said, Daddy, what did you do in the Great War, right? And that just challenged people to reflect, to think about their contributions to what people thought was a greater cause. In this case, contributing to that conflict. And I think this is something that went viral recently because we're gonna ask ourselves this question. And we're gonna have to live with that answer about when a humanitarian crisis of not a generation, but generations approached us. Did you have the character to stand up and do something? Or was it more a moment of analysis paralysis where you weren't sure what to do? Or was it this thought that, well, everybody else isn't doing anything, why should I do something? Maybe somewhere back in our brain, that's the reason why we sit so still in a moment so important. Ask yourself this question basically every day, maybe every week. People are in need right now. What are you going to do? How are you going to look back on yourselves? What are you going to tell your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews about how you contributed to a solution? I want to have a good answer. I hope you want the same. I'll check it in the live chat. I love this comment, my heart, just looking at Rocky. Let's get one more back. Okay, there he is. Okay, just a little teaser. Got to get back to the presentation. And when we think about this thought of what we're doing in the pandemic, there's a lot of iconic pictures right now that are defining history. How people will look back on this time period, I'm very curious about. But how many people in the live chat, love to hear from you, how many people have seen this picture already? A protest and a counter-protest on Sunday in Denver, where people want to release the stay-at-home order, get the economy moving, and a nurse stands in the way of that protest, symbolizing perhaps the loss of life. What are your thoughts on that? Let's see here. I want to hear from you. Let's move over to these comments and show this next picture. So we're having some people say that they've seen these pictures. This was another one. There's a lot of friction out there, guys. Protests are breaking out across the United States at the very least. In Michigan, in Kentucky, here in Ohio where I live. Are they happening in your state? And what do you think about this clash of beliefs? Now, I'm not trying to take it to a political place. As a charity, we are nonpartisan. But at the same time, nonpartisan doesn't mean that we don't have opinions about the value of human life and this unfortunate balance that we're going to have to strike. Standing up for what you believe in on either side of this issue. Standing up for what you believe in outside of this issue. Completely outside of what's happening right now. Rewind the clock. Take something you believe in. What are you willing to stand up for? You're so committed to that you're willing to put yourself out there to make a difference in one way or another. A lot of people in the live chat are saying they've seen this picture. An AP is saying we need to work towards common good and not become so self-absorbed. And I really appreciate that thought. Because regardless of how what you believe about the condition of the pandemic right now, regardless of what you believe about what's happening in this picture, remember that these people are human beings on both sides. Now, just to be clear, because I said I would, as a nonprofit working in COVID-19 response and prevention, we believe that the stay-at-home orders as they stand right now, that they are completely justified by science, by heart, humanitarianism, and even will serve the economy in the long run because you need human beings alive, productive, and not afraid in order to run an economy, okay? So that is the position of our organization and the direction of our work. But even people who may oppose that, who may get angry at what we're trying to do as a charity, we have to remember that those people are human beings as well, that they have families. And have I not also made mistakes in this life? Have I not also been wrong in the past? Am I not too a human being? I want people, I would only hope that people could see me for more than my worst moments. Because someone who is a humanitarian someone who may be a doctor or a nurse, when you come into the ER, we don't give you a questionnaire. We don't say, what are your beliefs and what do you think about this and what would you do in that situation? Humanitarians, maybe someone like you, our first instinct, our first action is to help you. Even if you don't believe what we believe in. That is what true compassion is. And sometimes, yeah, it's hard to swallow. There's a lot of friction in moments that maybe they don't need it. But this is the human condition. This is what it means to help other people. And you got to get used to it if you want to live a life that way. Nalani is saying, I think this picture itself speaks for how healthcare workers are committed to trying to protect people, no matter how. They want what's best for us. They're doing what's right. I believe that. I just got off of a live stream with the Mayo Clinic, ranked in many ways the #1 healthcare organization in the world. You know, I truly believe that these people, in most every way, they want the best for us. And life, I guess, is just full of friction. So let's keep going. That's something that's been trending. It's been on my mind. Been thinking about a lot. Keep your comments coming. Love to hear them. Thanks for sticking with us. Okay. Let's talk about how a promise that you can make. Remember that we have individual action plans on our website. If maybe that picture rubs you the wrong way, or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's something else that you've seen on the news that you just almost can't take it anymore. The state of the world. Well, the best way to release some of that anxiety, some of that angst, some of that anger almost, is to do something positive. Be a part of the solution. Take individual action to flatten the curve, to be a part of the solution. We've got individual action plans available on our site. Go to becauseisaidould.org/action. You'll see these are promises that you can make right now, just like Annika did. And we want to continue that challenge from last week. Limiting the exposure of this virus to elderly folks that we may know, senior citizens, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Doing that can save a life. 40,000 Americans have already died this year of COVID-19. Okay? I know it sounds silly. It's just a grocery app, Alex. It makes a difference. It really does. And we can understand that by just looking at the graph. Now, this is a little bit of dated information, but I think the general principle of these numbers stand. This is the fatality rate of COVID-19 by age. Why are we targeting senior citizens with this promise we're asking you to make with teaching them grocery apps? Because 13.4% of people over 80 years of age die if they get COVID-19, according to this data set. And continue to fact check this, look into information yourself, right? But 8.6% of people 70 to 79. My grandparents, I'm a little older, they fall into this 80 plus. And if they're saying that, more than half of Americans are going to get this disease, then I may never see my grandparents again. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for anybody. So make some promises, and maybe this could be one of them. Go to becauseisaidould.org/grocery delivery. That is going to give you a little action plan on how to make this promise, how to keep this promise. We want to see your pictures. Tag us on Instagram @becauseisaidould. Tag us on Twitter @BCIsaidIwould. Email us, contact@becauseisaidould.org. We'd love to see your pictures. And thank you for continuing to comment in the live chat. I want to hear about little things that maybe you're doing with your family as we wrap up our live stream today. But before we do, what kind of questions do you have for me? I'm running an organization trying to fight COVID-19 in our own way, trying to galvanize the actions of everyday citizens. What kind of questions do you have for me in sort of an ask me anything type of moment? Let's burn through a few minutes of what you're curious about, and I'd love to take your questions. Because so far what we've done is we've gotten a better understanding of the courage of no, which is the habit and tactic that we're trying to understand to help keep promises. We checked in with our chapter members who are doing incredible work. We looked at that propaganda-like picture that begs us to ask, what are we doing right now, and how are we going to look on ourselves in years from now, along with those striking pictures of protests and counter-protests that are happening in this country that are unfortunately escalating. We don't want civil unrest. We want to solve a problem, and I hope that we can get there. We took a look in today's live stream at this little baby boy's face. Oh my! What questions do you have? What do you want? What do you want to know about Rocky? Maybe. Let's see it. Is there any way I can help you with your organization, because I want to keep this going? Akame, thank you so much for saying that. Let's get to some real talk. How about that? Rocky, you have to go away for a moment. He's still on the desk, don't worry. So again, the question is there anything I can help you with your organization, because I want to keep this going? I don't know if I can keep it going. We've lost so much of our funding. 80% more in some ways, No one's having speaking engagements. That's a principal way that I raised money for the charity. And then I apply for this payroll protection loan, this stimulus package to help small businesses and nonprofits. We literally applied as soon as you could. Like, the system kept crashing. Amanda worked the weekend. Like, we applied as soon as we could. And then we get a letter like 3 days ago, that says, I'm sorry, but your loan application wasn't even considered because the money ran out before we as a bank could submit you. Charities are in a hard way right now. I was talking to one of our previous, an employee that worked with us, a friend of mine, and she said, I had 62 employees, Alex, and I had to parade one after the other into my office and fire 60 of them. A lot of people think that, when this all comes back to normal, everything's going to be fine. I don't know if those people have ever run an organization. I don't know if they're entrepreneurs or business leaders, because you can't deplete the savings of an entire organization and pretend like it's just going to bounce back immediately. That's not how it works. You don't have to go to business school to understand that. But you also don't have to go to business school. You don't have to do much of anything to also realize a thought that we said earlier. The only person in this world you can control is yourself. And that's what I've got to do. That's what I've got to focus on. We were able, as an organization, to raise $81,000 in 30 days. That made a huge difference. I want to say thank you to all of our donors. And Akame, to get back to your question, if there was a possibility of running a Facebook fundraiser, something that you can do by going to facebook.com/fund/because I said I would, that would be huge for us. Because we need the generosity of our supporters to keep the impact of our charitable work going. We've got 100,000 face masks to sew for our region. We've got to work with schools and prisons to help better us all at keeping promises and push us in the direction of good citizenship. But that doesn't happen without charitable support. And charitable sport, and I've given $4.6 million to this organization over the last 7 years. I'm willing and ready to sacrifice. But there's a point where I can only carry so much, and since I can't do events right now, I'm not able to give. I make as much as a kindergarten teacher outside of speaking engagements. So, for those who want to put together a fundraiser, again, facebook.com/fund/because I said I would. That's a great way to do it. And like I said, the last 30 days, our supporters came out of the woodwork and did an incredible job of keeping us floating. And so we're fighting the good fight. We just got to keep doing that. Bianca, thank you for your question. You said that you're very persuasive, Alex. Do you have any tips on how to be a good speaker? You mentioned our mission is much stronger than this. We will push forward. Let's talk about what it takes to be a good speaker. The first is that I hope that you're hinging your comments and thoughts on the truth. Do an amount of research and understand what it is you're saying. The truth matters. I hope that part of what is persuasive in what I'm saying is backed by the research that I'm showing. The truth is the ultimate persuader. I don't know if persuader is a word, but whatever, we're going with it. Another thing that I have as a tip for how to be a good speaker is to really take pauses. You don't have to fill you don't have to fill the air with just words constantly. Instead of ums and ahs, just don't say anything at all. And if you have a gap, it's okay. People will look at it as like, oh, he's thinking, or it's supposed to be a dramatic pause when even I get lost in my own thoughts. So that's a very different type of tip. And then the last one I'll share is to be passionate about what you're talking about. Actually care about it. It's 6:50 at night. I don't need to do this live stream. I don't need to do a lot of things, to be honest. I could rest on my laurels and take a nap, which I really need badly. I'm very tired. It's been a long month. But I'm passionate about this. I want us to be on the same page. I want to help people get better at keeping promises. I know that some of you are going to be the first to graduate college in your families. I know that some of you live in poverty. I know that some of you are worried about COVID-19 and want to do something. I know a lot of you are trying to get better at keeping your promises, and that's why I want to get on this live chat, this live stream, talk to you. And so I appreciate that. AP, if you're interested in your comment, I just saw it. If you want to donate, go to becauseisaidawould.org/donate. And you can always do that. But I know it's hard times for people too, so I'm not trying to push it too much. I just really appreciate all of your love and support. I really appreciate the mullet that I have going on. Can you see this? Hold on. Let me get it in camera here, right? It's so weird. Like I just got a little on this side, starting to flare out here. Got some Minnesota hockey hair going. If I comb it, it starts to look pretty Charlie's Angels. I am going crazy is what I'm trying to say. I live all by myself. Guys, in closing remarks, I want to talk about human progress, and then I'm out. Okay? Here we go. This is a quote from somebody that I appreciate deeply. Not many people are so impactful that they get their own holiday. So I'll get to that quote. AP, becauseisaidawould.org/donate is the link. I'm sorry I got an error, but try that maybe one more time. You can also just go to Facebook.com/becauseisaidawould. Facebook doesn't charge any processing fees. A good way to contribute to the charity. But let's get to that quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Even a superficial look at history reveals that no social advance rolls on the wheels of inevitability. Every step towards the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concerns of dedicated individuals. Fellow members of Because I Said I Would, I hope that is what you are. Dedicated individuals towards human progress. We can do this together. Keep your promises.